Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. Better late than never. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. And wait a second, why isn't that window showing up with my... Hang on, minor technical difficulty here. Oh, that's why. There's a fucking notification and OBS can't tell the difference. Okay, so how's everybody doing, chat? I'm sorry for the delay. This has been a fucked up day. There was a medical emergency here, not mine, but it caused all sorts of things to be up in the air, and my mother just had to come back to pick up stuff for her husband in the hospital. He's probably okay, but let's just say, amongst other things, the the ruling class's decision not to have an actual healthcare system in this country really not turning out to be a great thing. I mean, every single aspect of this has been a complete shit show. But I'm here now, and you're here now, so let's see what we've got. We've got... Biden's brain breaks again! Crowd cheers him over a meaningless statement. That's from Pim Tool. Oh, we were starting to watch Hassan, Xander Hole, slagging off Hassan for thinking that maybe escalating a war in order to fight for the U.S.'s right to commit genocide was a bad idea. We'd started that last week. We could obviously continue that. We've got another one from the Zionist propaganda channel, Why the Left United Around Hatred of Israel. We've also got another variation from another fucked up Zionist Hasbara channel that showed up in my recommendations, How the Left Turned on the Jews. I'm very, being Jewish myself and in the left, I'm kind of curious about this. I mean, I hadn't noticed that, but maybe, maybe we'll learn something. Then there's also Die neue Querfront, linker und muslimischer Antisemitismus, which is going to be some of the wonderful fucked up bullshit that Germany has to offer, especially lately. And there's Jimmy Dore, establishment suddenly turns against Israel. It was something only he has noticed. Hey, Riveroon, how you doing? Then there's with Texan Zionist Carolyn Glick, also from JNS TV. Actress Patricia Heaton, everyone should be a loud supporter of Israel. So, anything capture your fancy on that list so far? Oh, and there's also Weed Lord on woke equals unhappy Christian grift. I'm not too bad. This situation is stressful as hell, but I think he's gonna be okay. This was delayed because my mom came back from hospital. She needed to eat something and pick up some stuff for him, and I wanted to make sure I was there just in case she needed help finding this stuff. So that's why this was slightly delayed, but we're here now. So, any particular preferences? kind of curious about either how the left turned on the Jews or Biden's brain breaks again. But I'd love to hear what you think, chat. We had only just really gotten started on the last thing, the one where Xanderhol was going to have a go at Hassan. That was only just starting. Want to continue that? Let's see what's going on with it. I might run a little bit longer just because I'm actually the only one here, so I'm not worried about waking people up. Yeah, let's check this out. Gonna look at some more Xanderhol bullshit.
Excess military equipment. At least the parts that we watch to get his information. Because it's always really funny when you watch...
Oh, right. See, Xanderhol was having a go because Hassan follows news sources on Twitter and gets information from their posts on Twitter. Because apparently when you follow news sources on Twitter and you go to the link to their website, that's somehow totally different and worse than Xanderhol's approach to getting information, which is he doesn't get information. He doesn't actually look things up. He doesn't seem to know much of anything.
Hassan's segment where he's like making an argument or like researching something, and you see all of his research tabs and all of his like here's his evidence and where he's getting his news from tabs, and they're all Twitter links. Like there'll be one or two like Al Jazeera links in there, maybe like one link to I don't even know, just some fucking tanky shit. But it's pretty much all Twitter links, just
yes,
crammed together on that bar above everything else.
U.S. bases will drag Turkey into it. I mean, we'll see. Depending on how Israel retaliates, because remember, Israel is the country that bombed, technically, Iranian soil in Damascus.
Yeah, and
he's not wrong about that, yes.
And I have to say, yeah, and I said this last week. I backed it up just a little so I could remind myself where we are and we could all remind ourselves. But, I mean, I'm actually kind of surprised that Xanderhol acknowledged that. I was kind of expecting him to give him shit for that. So, yeah, I mean, better than expected. It's a BTE for Xanderhol.
This is a retaliatory attack from Iran.
By bombing the Iranian consulate compound. This was a direct violation of international law. This was a direct violation and also a major escalation in this conflict. It's not about Israel showing restraint. It's about what America does. It was about what America does from the jump. The fact that Joe Biden, after October 7, gave a bare...
Wait. It's about what America does? I mean, this is insane.
Yeah, why would you say that it's about what the U.S. does when we're talking about a U.S. client state that is totally beholden to the U.S. and is basically doing whatever the U.S. says?
For one, regardless of if America did anything right now in support of or neutral to Israel, Israel has a pretty powerful arsenal behind it, dude.
Oh, yeah, which is not true. They do have an arsenal, but their arsenal, they have been depleting it. They have been dropping so many bombs on Gaza that the U.S. is having to keep on resupplying them. If the U.S. cut them off, they would really be fucked, because they are dropping ridiculous amounts of bombs on Gaza. Like, in the first week, they dropped about as many bombs on Gaza as the U.S. had dropped on Afghanistan in ever. That is how quickly they are using this shit up. So yeah, actually, no, Israel does kind of have to listen to what the U.S. says, because let's just pretend that Israel had not been using up all their bombs, doing the genocide that Zanderhold does not seem to care a whole hell of a lot about. Let's just pretend that that isn't the case. Let's assume he's totally right and they've got all of their stuff. They still have only one real source for resupply, and that's the U.S. Nobody is in a position to replace the U.S. If the U.S. said that, even suggested there was the possibility that they would not continue to resupply Israel, Israel would have to take that into account, because they would be going from a situation of basically infinite ammo to a situation of very finite ammo. So what he's saying here is just bullshit.
To decades and decades and decades of American private military corporation, manufacturing and shipping, and the U.S. supplying them with funds and...
he's actually making Hassan's point. He's like, why does anyone care what the U.S. does in all this? Because look at all the stuff that the U.S. sends to Israel. Yeah, because that makes sense.
Excess military equipment. So they have, quite the arsenal for retaliation and an even further escalation from what Iran did. Now, it's interesting to me that...
It's kind of funny to hear this when you keep in mind that, I don't know if this was before or after Israel's retaliation had happened, and Israel's retaliation turned out to be an absolute fucking joke. It was a couple of quadcopters that appeared to have been launched by Mujahideen Khalq from within Iran, and they were just shut down and nothing happened.
He's admitted that this was an escalation, but is now saying the ball is in America's court.
Well, yes.
So,
for the reasons you just got done explaining, Zanderhole, yes. Because the U.S. is they're the people who send them the shit that they use to actually do their colonial genocidal shit.
What is the response from this supposed to be? Is America supposed to tell Netanyahu, hey, yeah, so listen, don't retaliate in any way against Iran for this?
Let's just note that this isn't, at this point, this wouldn't be retaliation. What Iran said, what he's left out here, first of all, Iran actually gave the Security Council 2 weeks explicitly. They had said they will not feel any need to respond directly if the Security Council condemns this absolute, just utterly flagrant violation of international law and Iranian sovereignty over their consulate. And the Security Council didn't do shit. They completely ignored it. And when Iran did their counterstrike, they then put out a statement immediately to the UN, published basically everywhere, saying, having done this, they now consider the matter closed, which was another way of saying that they're trying to de-escalate. They weren't trying, they made it very clear they could have done a hell of a lot more. They did not. And they were trying to just de-escalate the situation. Israel, having been the aggressor in this situation, can escalate by that. That isn't really retaliating at that point. At that point, that's them just continuing their aggression. But yeah, the ball is in the U.S.'s court, because the U.S. can say to Israel, don't do that shit.
And also stop fighting Hamas at all, because there might be human casualties to make,
There he goes again with his genocide apologetics, just pretending that this is fighting Hamas. There's no evidence of Israel actually engaging any resistance fighters. Remember, it's not just Hamas, it's not just the Qassam brigades. There are 10 resistance factions all working together to defend Gaza. And all contact. Israel releases, the resistance releases videos, but Israel releases these videos too. And the closest thing they show to combat is their fucking TikTok goons emptying clips in deserted buildings and shooting at sand berms and shit, and like rifling through women's fucking underwear drawers and all this bullshit. They're not fighting Hamas. I mean, that's just bullshit. If anything, it's the other way around.
He's happy. This is a fantasy. I'm sorry. This entire conflict just got made so much more complicated, and as much as I want to be able to take the easy, like, receive nothing but praise and claps from my audience position of like it's as simple as Israel is bad and is
Israel is bad, though.
Always bad because they're killing children.
Like, wait, he's not gonna take that position?
Like, Hamas is also bad. Iran's government is also quite fucking bad. We don't want them gaining a strong foothold by potentially crippling Israel, which is our foothold in the Middle East. We don't want Iran.
What? Okay, why exactly do we get to have a foothold in somebody else's fucking region, Xander Hall? Like, I mean, I like how he's like, I'm not gonna... I could take the easy position of saying genocide bad, but I'm not going to, because the alternative to genocide is that the U.S., the country that is committing genocide, might lose their foothold on somebody else's oil. I mean, wow, man. I mean, he just... Every time I watch Xander Hall, I hear the worst thing I've ever heard him say.
Iran gaining a foothold in the Middle East.
Iran gaining a foothold in the region that the country is in.
Hassan is American. I think he was born in America. He is a born American citizen.
Yeah, exactly. And that is why those of us whose governability the U.S. depends on in order to commit these crimes have a particular responsibility to oppose them by all means necessary. Like, what's your fucking point, Xander Hall?
Like, he should have some level of concern about countries that are outright hostile towards America. And
why do you think that they're hostile to the U.S., Xander Hall? Do you think, motherfucker, like, are you new? Are you fucking new that you don't realize why it is that nobody in the region wants the U.S. there? Like, why would anyone be hostile to the U.S.? The U.S. is just a small bean. It's the U.S.'s birthday. Are you gonna oppose military aggression by the birthday boy? Like, what the fuck? Like, and why should him being a U.S. citizen mean he approves of this bullshit? Why exactly would that be a good thing to do, Xander Hall? I mean, like, how is this not just him doing far-right bullshit?
Allies who are actively developing nuclear capabilities.
That's also a lie. Iran is not actively developing nuclear capabilities. The U.S. intelligence community actually pulled out the rug from that one in their national intelligence estimate years ago. They have never seen any need. I mean, they have been prompted to, asked if they need to update that, and they never have. But they said, with high confidence, that Iran does not have a nuclear weapons program. So so he's accusing Hassan of fear-mongering, remember. Hassan's the one fear-mongering. He's here talking about, but if we lose control over somebody else's country and the fucking nuclear weapons of Iran that I just sort of imagined, because I don't do any fucking research.
As we speak, actively developing it, if not already done, probably not.
Yeah, probably not. That's very good. Because they don't have a nuclear weapons program. But you can see why they would want a nuclear deterrent, I think, pretty clearly. If you were constantly being threatened by the US and Israel, you might want a fucking nuclear deterrent as well.
The idea of being like, yeah, no, these are the good guys. Absolutely fucking insane. Dude.
Nobody said they're the good guys, but we're not. The U.S. is not the good guys. The people doing genocide, Xander Hall, I mean, I know you're an ex-Nazi who actually sounds more and more like just a regular Nazi. But the people doing genocide are never the good guys, Xander Hall. Ever.
I'm sorry. At this point, it is both a geopolitical, strategic move to back Israel at this point, especially.
Yes, of course it is. Wow, he just realized this. He just realized that it is a geopolitical strategic move to back Israel in committing genocide. He just realized this. He's like, he had a fucking epiphany. Welcome to the conversation, Xander Hall. Some of us have been talking about this for like fucking 40, 50 years now.
Especially if any potential conflict with Iran happens. And on top of that, it would be political suicide for Biden to do this. Like, there's not going to be any soldiers from America put on the ground.
There already are. Motherfucker, there already are. Palestinian paramedics, at least one of them, reported when he was abducted and tortured all the way back in November. When he was abducted and tortured, because the first people who tortured him were wearing U.S. uniforms. The U.S. has had people on the ground from the beginning. The U.S. had 2 carrier groups. Now it's just 1 carrier group. They've replaced one of the carrier groups with an amphibious strike group, doing lethal overwatch to ensure that the fucking genocide continues uninterrupted. They have started a war with Yemen that they are now trying to find some way to back out of with their dignity intact in defense of the genocide. And this motherfucker, he doesn't give a shit because, like, apparently if the U.S. has geopolitical designs on a region, that automatically means whatever the U.S. is doing is good. Is he gonna, like, nuance that at all?
Obviously. Like, I think Biden's getting at that. Like, is America gonna send soldiers? Is it gonna be World War III? Obviously not.
That's not what he's saying. He is very specifically not saying that. He said the ball's in the U.S.'s court, by which he means is the U.S. is Biden going to tell the Israel that they need to cool it, since they were absolutely the aggressors in the situation, that they needed to fucking chill out and not do anything more? Or are they going to just say let them have it and actually just burn the fucking region down again? Because the U.S. already burned the region down once with the fucking invasion of Iraq. Admittedly, Xander Hall probably hasn't heard of that because he doesn't seem to know about anything that happened before he was born.
Like, why would he make a video like this, too? I feel like now is the best time for you guys to go back to my stream yesterday and look at my coverage of this thing, and how I was talking about how I don't want to speculate on anything, and I waited to cover this.
He doesn't want to speculate on it. He just made up a fucking Iranian nuclear program, but he doesn't want to speculate on anything.
And push my stream to the end of the day so I could make sure as much news was out about this and as much confirmed info was out about this before I covered it as possible. Meanwhile, Hassan just immediately covering that shit, making shit up, fear-mongering.
Where is he? Wait, he hasn't fear-mongered once yet. Where's the fear-mongering? You're the one talking about Iran has a nuclear program, which they don't. He didn't make anything up. Where did he make anything up? All he said is the ball's in the U.S.'s court, and anyone who's paying attention to this knows, who's been, like, paying attention to it for more than the past 5 minutes, knows the ball is very much in the U.S.'s court because Israel won't do shit unless the U.S. tells them it's okay.
Like, spinning a fantasy tale as we speak to try to... A made-up scenario he is imagining right now.
We've not... keep in mind, he hasn't said anything that is remotely speculative. This is in response to Hassan saying that the ball is in the U.S.'s court.
Justify his position he has.
The genocide
preempting a non-existent event that might happen.
He didn't say anything about a non-existent event that might happen. He just said that the ball's in the U.S.'s court. It is in the U.S.'s court.
Hug and no red lines approach to Benjamin Netanyahu caused Israel to feel like they could do whatever they wanted, and they could very easily bring America into the conflict. And they
I know they can't. Okay, there is one thing I will push back on. Everything he said up until that last bit about like this idea that the U.S. can be forced into a conflict they don't want to be in is bullshit. If Israel was going to force the U.S. into an outright war with Iran, it would have happened a long time ago, because Israel has been in fact, Israel's support for the invasion of Iraq, which they were actually kind of iffy about because the situation with Iraq was actually more or less suited them, with Saddam Hussein just weakened and the sanctions of mass destruction in place and everything like that. And the way that the sweetener the U.S. used, that George W. Bush used, was maybe Iran will be next. And Israel has been pushing for that ever since, and the U.S. has never done anything apart from just economic warfare, which is warfare, and it has killed a lot of people. But if the U.S. could be just dragged into conflicts, that would have happened a long time ago. The U.S. does not get into shit the U.S. doesn't want to get into.
Joe Biden has been so lax with Israel that they feel like they can do whatever they want. Dude.
Well, yes, they've killed like 40,000 people. Every single time the resistance kicks them out of one of their hospital massacres, they find a huge ass mass grave. 40,000 people, it's worth noting. I just want to put this into some kind of context. Basically, the overwhelming majority of the people Israel has killed since there's been Israel, since 1948, have been killed in Gaza since October 7th. Okay? So yeah. And the fact that Israel felt comfortable just, casually bombing a fucking third country's consulate like that? Yeah, that does seem like maybe the U.S. has made it very clear to them they can just do whatever the fuck they want. What is he gonna say to this?
People like Hassan and people on this side of the left necessarily
this side of the left, because he's the pro-Israel, pro-imperialist side of the left. There's no pro-genocide side of the left, motherfucker. If you're pro-genocide, you're not there.
Always have to end up whitewashing Republicans and the far right. Donald Trump is in loud and very proud.
What the fuck are you talking about, Donald Trump? We're talking about the fact that Biden has very explicitly, when he said no red lines, that is a direct quote from Biden. He was asked, are there any red lines? Very early on in this thing, are there any red lines that Israel could cross and the U.S. would tell him to back off? And he said, no, there are no red lines. That's a quote. So now he's bringing Trump into it.
Support of not just Israel, but Israel crushing the Palestinians.
That's already happening, motherfucker.
This conflict would be over by now if he was president, because he would have given everything to Israel they needed to wipe.
What would he give? What would he be giving that Israel does not already have, though? That's what's fucking silly about this. Because Israel is already getting ridiculous amounts of firepower, hundreds of arms deliveries. What exactly is he saying he would give them that they aren't already getting?
About Hamas. You can guess what that means. The problem is people like Hassan, you have to understand that a large proportion of lefties online right now that are advocating for Palestinians and Gaza and all that.
Gaza and all that. People, all these weird lefties, who think that genocide is a bad thing, and have worked out that since they're being systematically starved, in addition to being carpet bombed, that there may not be anyone fucking left alive by November, let alone for when Trump takes office. And I say when because I just do not see Biden winning this thing, because Biden seems very committed to losing it.
They don't actually care. Okay? They are legitimately grifters, whether it be grifting money, like Hassan, or just kind of grifting social status and likes. A lot of people in the online...
See, let me just say, I do not hold any particular brief for Hassan. When I've watched his stuff, which is not often, I have found he seems to be generally on the right side of things. I will say that. But I don't know much about him, so I'm not speaking. But this idea, so the people who are against the genocide, you see, the people who are risking their asses, risking their jobs, they're grifting for money. You see, the people who are like losing their fucking jobs because they take a stand against genocide, the students who are getting the shit knocked out of them at universities across the U.S. for opposing the genocide, they're the ones who are just grifting. They don't care. Xander Hall, he's the one who cares. And he's telling us what he cares about, and it is horrible.
Left, especially those in this sphere, are massive no-lifes whose entire social life exists online on social media. And they have a very small circle or bubble that they need...
Oh, unlike Xander Hall, who's just like a total, Renaissance man organizer. You just see, I mean, every time there's a picket line, Xander Hall's walking it. Every time, somebody, there are barricades and people need to hold back the cops, he's in the front lines. He's not terminally online at all.
Keep happy, and they want to gain like a sort of, that social XP and that level, those levels, And trying to out...
does he think his audience, maybe they are such rubes? Because the thing is, if you want to grift, if you want to grift and do it successfully, and get money, and get social position, and get sponsorships and stuff like that, the position you take, the position where all the money is to take Xander Hall's position here, which is to suck up to Biden unconditionally, and tell people why they should not care about a genocide that Biden is committing. Wow, this fucking guy.
Each other, or not even out-woke each other, honestly. This is more so just trying to out-anti-America each other, is essentially how they get ahead in this space. And Hassan kind of acts as like the gravitational mass at the center of this orbit of
This is a very Caleb Maupin
that identify with the label leftist.
Burger King.
They violated numerous red lines, as you guys know, both the ethnic cleansing in Gaza, but beyond that, way more severe red lines that they violated, such as...
I'm curious. What's
he curious about, chat? What's he gonna be curious about? Because, nothing he said. I mean, the only thing I would push back on there is that he said ethnic cleansing and not just fucking genocide. I mean, the two things go together. I mean, Israel does have a very stated objective of expelling the population, any survivors from Gaza. So, I mean, it's ethnic cleansing is kind of in the mix in that way. And apparently, the latest figure I saw is that there are 80,000 Palestinians from Gaza who are now seeking refuge within Egypt because it's just completely uninhabitable in Gaza. So, but what's he about to push back on here? What do you think, chat? Yeah, I mean, if there's one thing, I can't wait. What red lines weren't crossed?
Institution considers what is happening in Gaza an ethnic cleansing. Consider...
What is it?
That they violated, such as...
I'm curious. What institution considers what is happening in Gaza an ethnic cleansing?
How much time you got? How much fucking time you got? I mean, the International Court of Justice said it was plausible that Israel was committing genocide and ordered them over a month ago now to stop killing people and stop obstructing aid, and that has been flagrantly rejected, defied by the U.S. and Israel. Like, numerous top respected scholars of the Holocaust and genocide have been ringing the alarm bells for months about this. Like, I mean, it's easier to count the ones that deny it's a genocide.
Like, are there any human rights
Yes!
institutions that are like really well reputable and like agreed upon to not be like super biased in like a particular country's favor or something, for any weird reasons that could be easy to pick apart for somebody?
Just out of curious, let's see. Amnesty Gaza. Okay, Amnesty International, here, I'll just put this here. I mean, Amnesty International seems to be a fairly uncontroversial human rights organization for a guy like Xander Hole. I mean, if anything, they tend to have a revolving door with the State Department, and they say, Amnesty International welcomes the new report by UN Special Rapporteur, Francesca Albanese, on the situation of human rights in the Palestinian territory occupied since 1967, which concludes that, quote, there are reasonable grounds to believe the threshold indicating Israel's commission of genocide is met. So, I've just dropped that link in chat for you. So, yeah, lots of them actually would go way further than just saying ethnic cleansing, which generally just means kicking people out of the land. Like, ethnic cleansing was the Nakba, when, like, 750,000 Palestinians were kicked out of their homes. And I decided I had never actually... You always hear about the ethnic cleansing, the mass expulsion of people, but I'd never actually heard how many people were killed, how many Palestinians were killed. So I went back the other day to look that up. And the number that I found, apparently, that seems to be the consensus is 15,000. Which is to say that Israel and the U.S. topped the Nakba within, like, the first month of this thing.
Like, is there grounds to say what's happening in Gaza is an ethnic cleansing?
Yes, Israel has explicitly said so.
Because
this motherfucker was just criticizing Hassan's research methods, and here he is. He's been crapping on about Gaza and telling people not to care about it for like a month or so now. He hardly says anything about it, but when he does, it's why people shouldn't care about it. And he somehow did not notice that just about every respected human rights institution internationally is saying that it's genocide.
Technically, what's happening in Gaza doesn't even meet international law's definition of a genocide.
He doesn't understand the difference between genocide and ethnic cleansing. But he's going to explain why the International Court of Justice and the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights and every international law scholar who isn't working for the Israeli government or the US government is wrong right now. Like, he does not understand that genocide actually is a step beyond ethnic cleansing. That ethnic cleansing just means kicking people out, and genocide tends to mean, like, actually trying to kill them. Yeah, but I mean, the one thing that is generally accepted is that genocide is worse than ethnic cleansing. I mean, although there are people who say, actually, and I think there is a lot of merit, I'm using the legal definitions here, and you're quite right, there isn't a specific legal definition of ethnic cleansing. Although there is forced transfer of populations, which is actually, I mean, that's a war crime under international law. And that basically falls under that is basically the normal accepted definition of ethnic cleansing as well. But he apparently does not understand that genocide is actually considered to be a step beyond that.
which is, I think a kind of a mark on the definition of genocide by international law, less so than a sort of oh yeah, Israel's doing nothing wrong kind of point.
Like, does he understand? He has not paid any attention to any of this. He is telling his audience this, and they are at this point just sucking up to him. No, there's zero pushback. And he does not know the first thing about what's going on. I don't know why I should feel surprised about this. Yeah, I mean, and not just individual, we're talking hundreds. Hundreds. Hey, Toriel Dreamer. Just wanted to say, that reading you did of The Wizard of Oz, absolutely just chef's fucking kiss. That was amazing. You are a great dramatic reader. I told my mom about it because she loves those books. And she absolutely wanted to hear it, and I couldn't find, like, a link to it. But if you decide to, like, put that stuff up on YouTube ever, I know one person who would absolutely love to see it. And if you haven't seen Toriel Dreamer's stream over on Twitch, it is up on YouTube. Oh, drop the link in the Discord, and I will drop it in chat. I don't want to anger Nightbot. Nightbot is temperamental. But if you drop it in the Discord, I will drop it in chat. Because, I mean, Toriel Dreamer's stream is absolutely good value. It's wholesome as fuck. Yeah, it is not, it will not give you horrible traumatic nightmares like a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about lately. Oh god, you're not hijacking the stream. I wanted to give you this shout out because I love what you're doing, and I know I keep missing it too. But yeah, no, you're not hijacking anything. I saw you in there, and first of all, always a pleasure to see you there. And for another thing, I just want people to know you have a good stream. It's lovely.
But regardless, the idea that, like, there's any definitional claim from large institutions or anything along those lines to claim that how Israel is handling their conflict with Hamas is an ethnic cleansing?
Like, does he not know that ethnic cleansing is what Israel's been doing all along? And also, notice he keeps on doing this thing where he pretends it's a conflict with Hamas. I mean, he just accepts the U.S. framing totally without question. I mean, never mind that Israel is expelling people from villages in the West Bank where there is no Hamas presence. Never mind any of that shit. Like,
that is extreme.
No, it isn't.
Why not just call it mass killing because of, like, indiscriminate...
Because that's not the same thing, you dickhead. Ethnic cleansing isn't mass killing. You can do ethnic cleansing without killing anyone. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, I'm talking theoretically. I can't think of a single example of ethnic cleansing happen where nobody got killed. But theoretically, you could do it, because ethnic cleansing does not definitionally require killing. It requires expulsion. Well, in international law, the standard is A, the intent to destroy a group as such in whole or in part, and one of several enumerated acts: killing members of the group, causing serious physical or mental harm to members of the group, creating living conditions that are unsurvivable for the group, preventing births, and various things. And the thing is, what genocide scholars, who obviously could take a page from Xanderhall's book, because Xanderhall is the authority on all this, as a guy who's never actually fucking read anything about it, and what they've pointed out is that what's unusual in this case is that Israel has been so open about their intent. Like, that isn't usual. It is not normal for genocidal regimes to come right out and say, we want to kill everybody. But Israeli officials have been saying it all the fuck along. They've been saying it from the start. They have not left any room for doubt. And, like, just about every scholar on the subject of genocide and international law has been saying, this is off the hook. You never see this. They are just outright, they're saying the quiet part out loud. Usually the hard thing to prove in a genocide case is the intent. Because people who do genocide try to, obfuscate that a little bit, but Israel isn't obfuscating. They're just openly saying, yeah, we want to kill everybody.
Bombings and strikes on Hamas.
They're not on Hamas!
Like, they're not... From everything that I have been able to tell, the goal is not to wipe out all Palestinians.
They say the goal is to wipe out all Palestinians. And they are doing things that are capable of making that fucking happen. They have cut them off. The only reason that there's any food at all being allowed into Gaza is because Biden was feeling the pressure. And so there's been some symbolic humanitarian aid. Nowhere near enough. Nowhere near the already inadequate pre-October 7th levels. I mean, hardly any, but it's, symbolic. But Israel's official stance has been not one drop of water, not one scrap of food, not one bit of medicine, not one drop of fuel gets in. Yeah, very explicitly. Netanyahu says that they are Amalek and they should be exterminated like Amalek. And you hear there are videos on TikTok of Israeli death squads singing songs about how they're going to exterminate Amalek. And it gets on Israeli TV, and on Israeli TV, the presenters are like, see, those young lads, they understand what we need to be doing. On Israeli state TV, they had literal fucking children singing a song called We Will Annihilate Them, which includes a line about how in a year's time no one will be left alive in Gaza. How Zanderhol has to be making a special effort not to know anything about this to be saying this shit. Yeah, it's a big old accident, you just drop 7,000 tons, it was like 6,000 bombs in the first week. Just accidentally. They actually, and 6,000 seems to have been what they had in stock. They literally dropped every bomb they had in week 1.
It is to take out Hamas, who is attacking Israel.
They're attacking Israeli tanks. They are literally defending, at this point, they are defending their Gaza from these death squads. They and the other 9 resistance factions have been taking the fight to them, blowing up their tanks and armored personnel carriers, taking out their snipers, and Israel has been feeling the heat. They're running out of armor as a result of this.
Care how many of the human shields Hamas uses, they have to
he's doing the human shield bullshit too. He's just, it's just one Israeli talking point after another. I had people in the comments when I did the first one where I was pointing out that he was just, fucking parroting Israeli talking points, saying, no, I'm sure he didn't mean that. He probably was gonna say that actually it's worse. They were, he was being sarcastic, he was being ironic. No, he's just outright saying, these are just Israeli talking points. There's no evidence of Palestinian resistance forces using human shields. There is film. We've got Israeli goons on film forcing Palestinians to walk point on their patrols. They have an official stated, it has a name, it's called the neighbor procedure, where they use Palestinians as human shields when they go into Palestinian villages and stuff, so that nobody will fire on them or something like that. He's just gargling the fucking propaganda. Yeah, it's a very good word for it. He's bogarting that shit. Xander Hall at this point is just a Hasbara stream.
through to get to it. And that's the horrific thing about Israel. Hamas uses human shields, and Israel doesn't fucking care most of the time. Well, I'm sure most of the time they do. To be real, I've seen a lot of...
Most of the time? He's sure most of the time they do. Like... Actually, Francesca Albanese, the special rapporteur that said that the threshold for genocide was met, and was, her report was spoken of very approvingly by Amnesty International, who I would imagine would fit his definition of a respected institution or whatever. One of the points she made is that the whole point of, like, the law of international humanitarian law is you're not supposed to shoot civilians. And Israel turns that around and says that if there are civilians, then, if civilians get killed, they are human shields. Like, there's literally no evidence of Israel ever being deterred by the presence of civilians, including their own civilians, it's worth noting.
A lot of, like, stories where they evacuate people out before they strike, like, a Hamas camp, but too often.
Hamas camp. What he means is the Jabalia refugee camp. And what he's talking about is what's called bomb threats. Israel actually brags about the fact that they call in bomb threats. They'll be like, I do not know of any other army in the world that will call you up and say they are about to bomb you. And it's like, I seem to remember the IRA did that pretty regularly, actually. The difference is the IRA did not, like, call people up, say, we're about to bomb you, and then tell them to go to the place that was about to be bombed. That's an Israeli innovation, to tell people to evacuate to some place that they then bomb. Like, when we're talking about Rafah, the reason there's so many people in fucking Rafah is that Israel told everybody that was the safe area. And once like 1 million people showed up, like half of Gaza's population showed up in Rafah, they started bombing Rafah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh, hello, jumping into Twitch chat. Oh, you're a chat hopper.
Too often, like every other day, every few days, I'm hearing about a bunch of children getting blown up in an IDF airstrike. So, clearly
what do you mean
every
couple of days? That's like literally every day.
But the clear, like, at least explicitly stated, there does not seem to be a national objective right now of ethnically cleansing the Palestinian people.
Where the fuck have you been, Xanderhole? They're openly talking about how they are going... and now let me just say, this is fantasy for the home front. Because they have to actually beat the resistance to be able to do any of these plans, and there's no sign that they're going to do that. But they have been talking all along, very openly, about expelling the population of Gaza. Any survivors, send them to Egypt, put them in concentration camps in the Sinai. They're talking about, you have, like, real estate grifters in Israel trying to sell beachfront property in Gaza. The army can't stay in one place for more than 5 minutes without getting sniped or, like, RPG'd. But, fucking estate agents are already, gonna sell people fucking holiday homes. I'm sure that'll go perfectly. Like, this has been going on for 6 months, and this motherfucker has not paid... if he's paying... Either he's paying zero attention to any of it, or he is paying attention and he is just deliberately lying in defense of a genocide. Either way, I have to say, Xanderhole... remember how Xanderhole... When we first met Xanderhole on this stream here, on the Seagull stream, all of that time ago, he was talking about why leftists should never be allowed to have any distrust about any ex-Nazi who wants to be in their spaces. Xanderhole was expressing this opinion, being an ex-Nazi himself. And now he is explaining to us where that distrust comes from.
People.
Striking Beirut, Lebanon, not just southern Lebanon.
Yes, Israel has targeted okay, you spelled it mosquitoes almost. Mosques, hospitals, and the university. That's a lot of cultural
And not the university, every fucking university.
backbone. So you understand that Gaza is like the size of like an old Fallout map, right? Like an old map in a video game. It's not very large, you know?
Yeah, except there are real fucking people in there, Xanderhole.
Hamas controls that area and operates out of every intact, solid building that they can. They're
not operating out of intact, solid buildings. What John Elmer over at EI has called military vandalism, where they're just blowing up the frontage of residential blocks for no military purpose. What it has done is turn them into ideal firing positions. And so actually the resistance factions, all 10 of them, are using the firing positions that Israel has created by vandalizing, people's homes. The people have been expelled long ago, or they're already dead. The frontage of the buildings has been blown off by Israel's tanks and shit. And so now it's an ideal firing position, and they set up and they snipe at, and they, fire Yasin 105s at Israel's armor. And do so to fairly great effect, it seems, because Israel is running out of fucking armor. Yeah, Twitch has good emote game. Yeah, God.
in hospitals, they're in schools.
No, they're not in hospitals. This is Jesus. He's just, he's just gargling the propaganda. There's no evidence that they're in hospitals. There's no evidence that they're in schools. Israel has been attacking hospitals, including with chemical weapons, for literal decades now, always claiming that Palestinian resistance fighters are using those hospitals as military positions, which there's never been any evidence provided. Never been any evidence. Israel has used those hospitals as military positions, lately they've been using those hospitals as fucking death camps and leaving huge-ass mass graves behind when they're finally kicked out by the resistance. But he's just uncritically parroting this bullshit. Wow. Every time I hear this guy, it's the worst thing I've ever heard him say. My respect for him was low at the start, because how I got to know him, I've never met him personally, just to be clear. I don't know him in that sense. But the way I first became aware of him was when he was, helping to direct racist hate mobs at Professor Flowers, lying and claiming that they had advocated white genocide, which is a great thing for a guy who claims to be an ex-Nazi to get very excited about. That, that's not at all a Nazi thing to be, fucking fear-mongering about. That was the starting point. And he's been going downhill from that. Yeah, precipitously in recent months. He is just, at this point, why do we need him? There's already a Destiny. Why do we need a Xanderhole if there's already... Destiny is better at this bullshit.
They're in churches. They aren't, gonna avoid those buildings. If anything, they're going to choose them because of the slightest chance that the IDF might not bomb those buildings.
There's literally no... See, what he just said is the exact reason that this doesn't even make sense. Because the whole reason anyone would ever use a protected facility as a military position is that it gives you a tactical advantage because it's a protected facility and it's immune to enemy fire. But the thing is, Israel has never shown the slightest concern for the Geneva Conventions. They have never refrain. They have specifically sought out hospitals. Like, the closest thing they have to military victories, they crow about this shit on their social media, you know, for domestic consumption, is that they go into these hospitals and they murder a whole bunch of fucking health workers. You know, why would anyone be naive enough to think that the fact that a place is a protected facility under international law means Israel's not gonna fucking bomb it? Yeah, I mean, what he's doing is interesting because my impression is he's doing this specifically because he wants to stand Biden. And he's really kind of making a lot of our point for us, I think, because a lot of us have been saying if you stand Biden, you're standing genocide. And, well, here he is standing genocide and Biden.
Because of what they are. That, like, I need you guys to think for a moment about this.
Yes, Enderhole's audience who isn't watching this, please do think for a moment. Oh, no, he is starting to get some pushback. Lefty Jenna says, I do think it's at least clear that there are people in the Israeli government who do want to commit ethnic cleansing. If not even outright genocide. God, that's weak-ass pushback, but it's something.
These things. I know you guys just want to get mad at me because I'm not saying what you want me to just say. I'm not.
I love this thing. Tim Pool will sometimes do this. He will say the most standard right-wing talking point that no one in his audience is going to have a problem with, and go, I know I'm going to get all sorts of stick about this, and he'll break out the most just fucking bland-ass mayonnaise talking point that is just that everybody in his audience will agree with. You know, it's like, here, let me, I can do this too. I can do this too. See, okay, I know I'm gonna get fucking murdered in chat for this, okay? But chat, I gotta say, fuck Xander Hall. I gotta say it. I mean, nobody, people in chat are gonna just absolutely devour me for saying it, but fuck Xander Hall. I mean, his chat, like, literally anybody who had any critical thinking around what the US is doing left him, my monocle is in orbit. Okay, I love that. Is that a reference to something, or is that just something that you came up with off the cuff? I love the image, but, I mean, like, there's nobody left in his chat who is the slightest bit critical of him.
Not falling into audience capture like Hassan does, and I actually do research, and I don't just repeat what's popular to say on Twitter.
You just slagged him off for actually doing research at the beginning of this video, Xander Hall. Do you remember that you did that?
But I need you guys to just think for a moment.
He's gonna make him think. What do you think he's gonna make him think about?
There's no evidence that Israel's currently conducting an ethnic cleansing. What they are conducting, however, this is not a defense of Israel, what they are conducting, however, is a mass colonization effort that involves the displacement and killing of countless people.
This motherfucker, that's literally what I can't. Like, okay, you just, like, the teapot is, like, fucking whistling, okay? You made my fucking teapot whistle, Xander Hall. I hope you're happy. Now I want a cup of tea. That is literally what ethnic cleansing is, you absolute... I will now. That is what ethnic cleansing is. Let me just read that about... Let me read that back. Because, like...
There's no evidence that Israel's currently conducting an ethnic cleansing. What they are conducting, however... This is not a defense of Israel. What they are conducting, however... is a mass colonization effort that involves the displacement and killing of countless people in another nation.
That is literally what ethnic cleansing is. It's like he's reading the definition. of ethnic cleansing right now.
So, this is not a defense of Israel.
No, it really isn't. It really isn't. Except that you're like, because, I mean, if you know what the words mean, it isn't. But he's offering it like he's trying to get them acquitted of ethnic cleansing. That's like saying, okay, your lordship, my client did not commit murder. My client has, and let me just say, all my client has done, your lordship, is commit a killing with specific intent, premeditation, and malice aforethought of another person. There was no murder, just a premeditated killing with specific intent and malice aforethought. That's all, your lordship. I rest my case. Like, you're just reciting the fucking definition.
It's just that the way Hassan talks about this stuff is a problem. It may sound...
Yeah, because he knows what the words mean.
like I'm being, what's the word for it? Pedant?
No, you're not being... Well, you're trying to be pedantic, but the thing about pedants... The thing of there are qualifications for being a pedant. One of them is you gotta know things.
It may sound like I'm being pedantic and like hyper fixating on certain definitions. But I think it's important to pay attention to the way Hassan words this stuff because it's very emotional on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, it's fucked up that people would get emotional about the slaughter of over 40,000 people by a regime that has openly said they want to starve the other 2 million to death. That's so weird that somebody would get emotional about that. I mean, Xander Hall being a very normal guy, most normal guy ever, he would never get emotional about watching a regime that he lives in, that relies on his governability to do what they do, murder huge numbers of people in the most grotesque fucking ways possible. Like, everybody I know, practically, is some degree of fucking traumatized by this. Especially, like, Palestinian friends of mine, this has got them completely fucked up, as you can imagine, because they got fucking family there. But I'm talking about people who don't. You know, people who have friends who have family there, or people who don't necessarily even know anyone who's Palestinian, but are paying attention, and it's fucking us all up, because this is the worst. I've seen lots of atrocities, and I have absolutely no hesitation in saying this. I have never, in my lifetime, seen a worse atrocity than this one. I have seen all sorts of fucked up shit. This is worse than certainly in this century. But I am willing, I can confidently say in my lifetime as well. And that's not because there's so many wonderful, that it's been wonderful in my lifetime and atrocity free. It's not. But this is different. This is actually kind of unprecedented. Head injury is a demand for precision, but I remember an old diagram showing the difference in precision and accuracy using the metaphor of gunshots on a target. Yeah, I mean, he's being the worst kind of pedant. A pedant who doesn't know shit. His shots are clustered tightly together, but not on the target, the wall, the range. They're all in the door of a Mazda in the parking lot. Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
Evoking emotion on an important issue to motivate people to care, and evoking emotion on an important issue to make people fall for your misinformation.
But you have not given a single example of misinformation from him yet. You've provided lots of examples of your own misinformation. He has not, there's not been a single thing that he's been able to point to that Hassan has said that is wrong. At best, what you could say is some of it he has understated the case. Whereas Xander Hall is just, doing a fucking Hasbara speedrun. Wow.
Because Hassan's doing the latter, not the former here.
But straight up.
Then it should be really easy for you, Xanderhole, since you totally do research. I mean, a lot of people, I mean, even people who follow your stream fairly regularly would not realize it because he's just that sneaky with his research. He will have you believing he doesn't know a damn thing, but actually deep down he does his homework. And then he hides it for reasons. Then it should be really easy to point to an actual fact that Hassan has gotten wrong here.
Striking Beirut, and then another red line when they struck the Iranian consulate and the Iranian consulate compound in Syria, in Damascus. Beyond that, obviously, there were, of course, locations that were attacking Americans versus the Iranian proxy groups in both Syria and Iraq. That is the norm, just like it was the norm for Hezbollah to strike targets in northern Syria versus Israel striking targets in southern Lebanon. But there were moments where Israel went above and beyond in the most belligerent fashion, likely escalating the tensions in the region and likely creating more destabilization with...
Yeah, that really was an excellent explanation. This is one of the great things about streaming, I have to say, because there will always be people in chat, or virtually always be people in chat, who can make a point I'm trying to kind of put my finger on better than I can, or they've read something more recently than I have and can actually confirm that I'm actually remembering it correctly. Or the, chat sometimes actually comes up with the funny jokes. I mean, I love that about streaming. I'm gonna go a little bit later because I'm alone here. And I did get a bit of a late start, but I'm gonna be wrapping up fairly soon.
With the hopes that they could bring the United States of America into the conflict directly. Benjamin Netanyahu...
See, this is like the one thing that I think he's absolutely wrong about. I mean, this idea that the U.S. can be dragged in. I mean, that's just nonsense. But we already talked about that. But everything else he said is not even controversial.
But this is an amazing story by Tal Shalev, ahead of a possible...
Biden won't do it. Unless America gets, like, directly striked... or one of America's really close allies gets directly striked, not even Israel.
There is no closer... Who's closer... Who is a closer ally to the U.S. than Israel, though? Like, Israel is the hands-down leading recipient of U.S. military aid.
But I mean, like, I don't know, Britain or something gets striked. I can't see it.
Oh, okay. So, he is getting some pushback. Demo Boy here in his chat has pointed out the genocide definition does actually apply.
America, I mean, even then, fuck. America putting boots on the ground, particularly Biden signing off on that. Like, Biden issuing that executive order would be political suicide. He's already teetering on the edge.
I mean, what he's doing now is political suicide. Like, I mean, this is killing his re-election chances. And his own people know it, which is why they're trying to find all sorts of cute ways to distance him from it. Like these bullshit leaked stories where they're like, he's totally losing. White House staffers say that Biden said that he's pissed off at Benjamin Netanyahu and all this bullshit. Like, he's already fucking killing his re-election chances. I mean, his political career, I don't see how it goes on from this.
Probability to win this election coming November, but I just don't see him signing that executive order and doing something that he damn well knows would be an extremely unpopular decision.
Well, I mean, what he's doing is already extremely unpopular. I mean... Only Xanderhole,
Sorry, dude, but you look at the Israeli strategy, looking at a map, Israel has been trying to force Gazans to move south with death and destruction. They want to squeeze them all out through Egypt.
Yeah, okay, somebody else in his chat is pointing out the obvious. And again, what this person in chat is saying to him is uncontroversial and openly acknowledged by Israel.
You're blind, Zan. Your understanding, Xander Hall, is highly myopic.
That is being so fucking charitable. Okay, and Lucid Burgundy. Okay, so finally, okay, he's getting some pushback. Somebody else points out that a mass starvation campaign like the openly acknowledged one, because none of what they're saying is something that Israel denies, is the thing, his people in his chat. Sprache andere. Oh, what does Sprache andere mean? That means language, others. Sprache yandere, like being the most concerning moe at the Tower of Babel. Yes, that would be very concerning.
You realize you're one of these people. You're so emotional. I'm gonna ban you.
Wait. He's going to ban them for just pointing out facts. He said he said you're so emotional. He literally just pointed out stated, openly acknowledged facts.
Okay. You're gonna take a nice rest tonight, I hope. I hope you go take a nap, have some hot chocolate, maybe.
Fuck you, man.
Yourself some hot chocolate or a nice coffee. Have yourself like a nice nap, take some deep breaths, relax a little bit.
What a cunt.
I want you to think about this issue.
It sounds like they have been thinking about this issue, Xanderhold, because they pointed out just like uncontroversial facts. None of that was controversial. None of that is actually disputed. That is exactly what Israel says they're doing.
And maybe when you wake up, you'll understand why you're dumb.
God, wow, this is the guy, what an amazing debater. You're dumb. Where did he come up with that retort? You're dumb. Why didn't, that's just remarkable. That is just the definitive takedown. You're dumb.
I am not defending Israel. I know.
Yes, you fucking are! Yes, you fucking are! This is like when fucking Tim Pool goes, "Oh, I'm not a Republican or anything. I'm not a Republican or anything." He's like, his stream is like 6 hours of fucking Republican talking points, and then he'll go, "No, actually, you see, I'm a centrist. I'm a liberal, actually, but I'm politically homeless or whatever." Yes, you fucking are defending Israel. You're telling every single one of their lies.
Very, very badly want to hear what I'm saying right now and hear it as a defense of Israel.
The thing is that some people are actually familiar with the basic facts of the situation, and it makes it very hard to see this bullshit as anything else. You work very well in one language, I have to say. Yeah. Ja, exactly. Ja, also ich bin im Moment allein zu Hause, denn meine Mutter ist mit ihrem Mann im Krankenhaus. Wir hatten ja hier einen medizinischen Notfall, aber ich werde ja eigentlich bald Schluss machen, denn sonst werde ich mir eigentlich die Kehle rausschreien.
What I am pointing out right now is that Hassan is trying very badly to weaponize the fact that you are all, and rightly so, very upset about the fact that countless, how many children has it been that have died in
Died.
Gaza now? It's in the tens of thousands, nearly like 30K or something like that.
Well, no, okay. Wait, okay. That is, honestly, okay. 15,000 is the last figure on specifically children. 30K is the low estimate of the health ministry. That is the number. It's like 34K, I think, is the number from the health ministry, which is the number of death certificates they've actually been able to issue. Because they don't count somebody in their figures until they have actually identified them, identified a body, done the paperwork, and issued a death cert. To acknowledge that Which, I mean, to acknowledge, he's acknowledging actually just the sheer amount of mass slaughter that's going on, and he's still making fucking excuses for it. Well, I wouldn't, don't tempt fate here, because I have a feeling he's going to have a butt. He likes big butts and he cannot lie. Ja, danke, das hoffe ich auch. And I think I am going to call it a night now, because I am actually getting a bit of a sore throat from this fucking video. God. This fucking guy. Thank you to everyone for joining me. I'm sorry about the delay, but I think we had a pretty good stream. Chat has been, oh yes, he can lie. Yeah, you've been lovely in chat as always. And I hope to see you in the Discord, and I hope to see you tomorrow at 11:30 p.m. US Eastern Time. Hopefully without a delay. I don't know that for sure, but we can always try. And let me just drop the Discord link for anyone who isn't already there. This is where you can keep in touch in between streams. Oh yes, and let me just drop, I dropped that in chat, but in case you missed it, this is Toriel Dreamer's YouTube. And that is, I highly recommend it. In particular, look for the audio book of The Wizard of Oz, just beautifully read. Well, my channel is almost all VODs too. Have a good night and good luck and fuck Xanderhall. I know I'm gonna get massacred in chat for saying it, but I gotta say.